There's a version of you that only exists when nobody's looking, and it disappears the instant someone walks in. You straighten up, your expression shifts. You become someone slightly more presentable, more careful, more fake. The scary part? You never notice the switch. That tiny shift is one of the most powerful forces in human behavior. Hi, this is Dr. Psyche, where we break down the strange ways your mind works. So if topics like this hook you, subscribe and hit the bell, because there are a lot more hidden brain tricks to uncover. So, let's continue. The simple fact of being watched rewrites who you are, in real time, without your permission. And by the end of this, you'll understand something unsettling. The version of you that exists when no one is looking might not be the real you at all. In fact, that version might not exist the way you think it does. Start with what happens the instant you feel observed. Your brain flips a switch. It stops asking, "What do I want to do?" and starts asking, "What should I be seen doing?" These are two completely different questions, and they pull you in different directions. Alone, you might slouch, mutter, scroll mindlessly, talk to yourself. Watched, you perform a cleaner, tidier version. Have you ever caught yourself driving more carefully the second a police car appears, even when you were already doing nothing wrong? That's the switch. Scientists stumbled onto this almost 100 years ago. Researchers were studying factory workers, trying to find the lighting level that made people most productive. They turned the lights up, output went up. So they turned the lights down again, and output went up again. It made no sense until they realized the lighting was never the point. The workers were producing more simply because they knew they were being watched. The attention itself was the cause. This became known as the Hawthorne effect, and it haunts science to this day because it means people stop being themselves the moment you start measuring them. So what is your brain actually doing in those moments? It's running an ancient program. For most of human history, your survival depended on your reputation inside a small group. If the group decided you were lazy, dishonest, or strange, you could be pushed out, and being pushed out could mean death. So your mind developed a permanent background process, a monitor that constantly asks, "How am I coming across right now?" That monitor never fully shuts off. It just gets louder the second an audience appears. Here's where it gets strange. That monitor is so sensitive, it doesn't even need a real audience. In one set of experiments, researchers put up a simple picture of a pair of eyes above an honesty box where people paid for coffee. No camera, no person. Just a photo of eyes on the wall. And people paid up dramatically more often. A drawing of eyes, which your rational mind knows can't see anything, was enough to make you behave as if you were being watched. Think about what that reveals. Some deep part of your brain cannot tell the difference between a real observer and the mere suggestion of one. And it goes deeper still. Because you don't need eyes on the wall at all. You carry the watcher inside you. Right now, alone, you are still imagining how things would look to someone else. You rehearse conversations that haven't happened. You picture how people might judge a choice you're about to make. You feel embarrassment in an empty room, remembering something from years ago. There is no one there. And yet you're still performing, for an audience made entirely of memory and imagination. Why would you feel watched when nobody is looking? That's the twist, and it changes everything. We tell ourselves there's a true self that only comes out when no one's around. The mask comes off, and the real you appears. But that idea might be backwards. Because even alone, you're shaped by an invisible audience. Your future self, judging today's choices. Your parents' voices, long after they've left the room. A version of the people whose opinions you've absorbed so deeply they feel like your own. The private self isn't the unwatched self. It's just watched by ghosts. So the question was never whether you're being watched. You always are. The only real question is who you've chosen to perform for. And most people never choose. They just inherit an audience. They spend their whole lives adjusting for the imagined judgment of people they don't even respect. Strangers online, a critical relative, a crowd that exists only in their head and would never actually care. They contort themselves for watchers who aren't even worth the performance. But here's the part that gives the power back to you. If being watched always shapes you, then you can be deliberate about who gets to watch. You can pick your audience on purpose. Imagine the person you most admire, the wisest, steadiest version of yourself, watching how you handle this exact moment. Suddenly, your behavior lifts to meet them. That's not fake. That's the same ancient machinery that made you sit up straight, except now you're aiming it at something worth becoming. The watcher in your head can be a critic who shrinks you or a mentor who raises you. You decide which one holds the camera. So no, you can't switch off the feeling of being watched. It's older than you, and it's wired into the deepest layers of who you are. But you were never going to find some pure, unobserved self underneath it. That self was a myth. What you have instead is a choice about which eyes you keep in the room. So the next time someone walks in and you feel yourself change, don't fight it. Just notice who you became and ask if that's who you wanted to be. Because the truth is, you're always on a stage. You always were. The only thing you really get to decide is who you let into the audience and who you become for them.